Welcome to the Champions of Active Women podcast. In this podcast, we will interview individuals who have been successful within athletics and beyond. We hope that these interviews will encourage and inspire girls and women to be active for a lifetime, to reach their goals, and to break new barriers in sport and life. This podcast is brought to you by the Active Women's Health Initiative and the Sports Medicine Research Institute at the University of Kentucky. The mission of the Active Women's Health Initiative is to optimize health and promote physical activity and wellness for girls and women across the lifespan. We hope you enjoy our conversations and join us in understanding women's health today to ensure women's health tomorrow. Eason is a local elementary school teacher and former All-American who began running right here in Lexington. After competing in cross country and track for 4 years at Sayre High School, she went on to Eastern Kentucky University. While at EKU, Ann won 11 Ohio Valley Conference titles. She was named the Ohio Valley Conference Female Runner of the Year 3 times, the OVC Scholar Athlete of the Year, and was named to the first and second Academic All-American teams. She placed 9th at NCAA Nationals in the 5K in 2013 and 41st at Cross Country Nationals in 2014. Ann has worked with Girls on the Run for several years and was the head Varsity and Middle School cross-country coach at Sayre for 2 years. She is now coaching at the elementary and middle school level at Redwood Cooperative School, where she's also a 2nd and 3rd grade teacher. Today, Ann is joining us via Zoom. Welcome, Ann. So thank you so much for joining me today. It is clear to me from your bio that running is a big part of your life, and both during your time as an athlete and now as a coach and a volunteer. Could you talk about how you got your start in running?
Yeah, sure. My running story is a lot different, I think, than a lot of my competitors and people that I've met, through the sport throughout the years. I am not the typical person who found running at a super young age and loved it and, just kind of continued on the path as I grew up. I started running my freshman year of high school. That was the first year that my school had a cross-country team. I started because the coach was a former teacher of mine, and I just thought she was like the coolest person ever, and I just wanted to do it because she was coaching. And so, yeah, that's kind of what brought me to running. And so I ran at Sayre for 4 years and then continued on at Eastern and, just kind of fell in love with it, honestly, after my first race. I played a lot of different sports growing up. My mom always really encouraged us to be active in different ways. And so I always enjoyed it, just throughout the other sports that I had played. But, didn't commit to it, I guess, until I was a freshman in high school. So
yeah, which, looking back maybe doesn't sound that late, but it really is in any sport to start in high school seriously training for a sport. It's in today's day and age, it's later
Right.
than a lot of people do.
Right. And we had a track program before my freshman year of high school, and I begged and begged and begged my mom to let me join because the same woman was coaching, and and she was my teacher at the time, and I wanted to run, and I knew that I knew it was something that I enjoyed from, the other sports that I did. But she was a teacher and was coaching, and it just, didn't work out. And then finally, I think I wore her down enough that I finally got the chance.
She let you join.
Yeah.
What a cool story about that impactful female role model who you just really looked up to and then kind of brought you into a sport. What other sports did you play?
I did soccer and basketball in middle school. I did gymnastics when I was younger, but was never flexible, so did not pursue anything there. But I also grew up with an older brother and 2 older cousins that lived with us. So we were always, in the backyard playing, running around, tag. My mom always encouraged us to be active. Like I said before, I have really fond memories of just summer nights playing Frisbee tag and just all of us running around together. So, yeah.
Some good unstructured outside play.
Unstructured play.
It's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, so your mom sounds like she was really influential in your early experiences. Was she an athlete herself, or did she just value activity?
She was. She was a swimmer in college, which is not a skill that she passed along to me at all. But she was a swimmer and throughout just all growing up, and she swam in college as well. yeah, so she always valued that. And I think I was really lucky to have her as such a strong female role model present in my life. And I definitely took it for granted when I was younger. Um, but yeah, she always encouraged us to be active, always. I remember like her going on runs and things like that when my brother and I were little, and just thinking like that she was crazy and why would anybody choose to do that? But yeah, she always supported us, encouraged us to just, try anything until we found what we loved.
Mm-hmm. What was it about running that you loved?
I don't know. I don't know. I get this question all the time because it is kind of one of those sports that people either love or hate.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know what it is about it, but it's just this really indescribable feeling. I think well, I know it taught me a lot about, myself. And I think it's kind of a hard thing that, when you're presented with like going on a run or doing this workout or, running this race, running this time, whatever it is, it's always really scary at first. But I don't know, being able to accomplish those goals and kind of, I don't know, just the feeling that brings, as well as just like sticking to something. And of course there are like the endorphins released with exercise. Like people always talk about the runner's high, but
Yeah, I don't
yeah,
get that.
yeah, which seems to be what a lot of people say as well. But I just know even now going on a run, like it's something I look forward to. Like it's really time that I treasure and that I try to protect. I try to allow myself that no matter what's going on, just because, I feel like, I don't know, I do a lot of like deep thinking, solve a lot of problems, do some lesson planning, whatever it may be. But it's just this time where it's just you and your own thoughts. Like, even if you have music and, you still are thinking the whole time. So yeah, I think it's just like a really cathartic experience.
And it sounds like there's lots of things that you liked about it. And most activities that we do, there are probably multiple reasons that we do them. But
Right. Yeah.
so, moving from structured athletic experiences into now, you're not really part of a team that I know of. Maybe you are, you can talk to that if you are, but sounds like you're mostly running on your own or maybe with a group. Was that transition hard for you out of structured athletics and into just maintaining your own physical activity for health and well-being?
It was. It was very hard for me. I'm a very structured person, but it was mostly hard because it came a little too soon. I suffered a pretty serious injury in college that ended my career there, and I kind of, was on this path where running I thought was going to be my thing. And when
Yeah.
that was all kind of came crumbling down, it was a very hard transition.
Yeah. Was the injury experience during sport, or did it just prevent you from going back to sport?
Kind of both. It was I suffered a stress fracture in my talus bone,
Okay.
and it went undiagnosed for a really long time. So nobody could really tell me what was going on. And just where the fracture was, I didn't feel any pain unless I was running.
Huh.
So it was just super frustrating because I could walk around day to day and, not have any pain, which was nice on one hand, but it took the doctors a really long time to figure out what was going on.
Mhm.
And I ended up spending a year and a half in a boot and
Oh my
8
gosh.
months of that on crutches. So, um, yeah, I was kind of down for the count for a while. So yeah.
So tell me what it was like to come back after that, and not only to not be able to go back to college athletics, but then to figure out how you were going to find running again and just activity again.
Yeah, it was hard. It took me a long time. It took me a long time to trust myself enough to start running again because I was so scared that it was still going to hurt. I was scared that I was going to take one step, and something was going to happen. It was such a bizarre injury that it just kind of took me a long time to get over mentally as well.
Mhm.
Because even in my last MRI, it showed like a clear fracture in a completely separate bone in my body, in my foot, and a place where I never felt any pain. And I was the doctor asked me if it hurt, and I was jumping around on one foot, like showing them that I didn't have any pain, but that was still showing up for whatever reason. So
Huh.
it was a very, very bizarre, very bizarre injury, which is why I think it took me so long to trust myself to, be able to go through those motions again. So
Mm-hmm.
I spent a lot of time not running, just because I was scared, and I had a hard time with not being a Division I athlete anymore,
Yeah.
and kind of not continuing on the path that I thought I was going. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So have you moved into a place now where you and running are friends again, and you're in and kind of what helped you do that?
Yeah, so it seems as stubborn as I want to be, and as many times as I try to leave the sport and just, leave it behind and say I'm not a runner, say I'm not running, it always seems to find me again. And I love it. I
Like
do.
a good friend, right?
Yeah, yeah, a really good friend who puts up with a lot.
Mhm.
So I've been lucky enough to be involved as a coach, and really be inspired by those young kids, and kind of seeing their love for the sport, and just seeing that they want to try something new. I just felt like I had the best experience ever, definitely in high school through running, and I want the opportunity to give other people at least like a small fraction of what I had, because I was so lucky to have, the coach that I did and the teammates that I did then, to really fall in love with the sport.
Yeah. What were some of the lessons that you learned about yourself or about life through running when you were running in high school or college or and beyond that?
It taught me a lot about myself. It taught me, definitely just like time management with, balancing this thing that I wanted to do with all of these things that I have to do with school and, chores or whatever it might be. But it taught me that I'm a lot stronger than I thought I was, which is something like, I don't know, I guess my mom also always tried to instill in me growing
Yeah.
up, like to have thicker skin, and that I was, stronger than I thought I would, that I can do anything, no matter what big goal seemed really scary at the time. Like I was capable of it, and no matter what goal it was, it seemed like the harder I worked, I could chop away at it, and hopefully eventually achieve it. And that's something that kind of, was really present throughout running, just whether it was like a scary workout or, a PR that I wanted to chase. Like if I was willing to put in the hard work and, put myself through the really hard things, or if it were a race and I was willing to test myself and go out and run with, a certain person or in the lead pack or whatever it may be, that I could, if I was willing to put myself in that position, I would be able to do whatever it is.
Hmm. And those are really good lessons. I'm wondering if you're passing on some of those or trying to pass some of those on to either the girls you're coaching or your students or anybody else.
Yeah, definitely. I think confidence is a big part of it. Running gave me a lot of confidence, that translated into every area of my life. And that's really what I aim to instill in both young athletes and my students. Just that they know that they can do it no matter what it is, no matter what, if it's, a new skill that they're learning in the classroom, that they're capable of it. If they're persistent and stick with it, they can do whatever it is that they're trying to do.
With those young people, what do you see in their lives as their biggest challenges, either in sport if they're athletes or just in general?
That's a hard question. I think a lot of times it's themselves, especially with the younger ones. I think that they put a lot of pressure on themselves. I think there's a lot of fear of being wrong with both, in sport, and not being good enough, whatever that
Mhm.
looks like to them, or just in the classroom not having the right answer all the time, not measuring up to their peers where they feel like they should. So I think it's themselves a lot. With the older ones, I know that there's a lot of pressure that comes with, especially with females, pressure that comes with, comes from other areas, and just letting them know that, no matter what it is in the classroom or in running, that they are enough just the way they are, that they have all the tools that they need to be successful in whatever area it is that they're trying to be successful in. That's really,
Yeah.
yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful advice to give to young people. And so I'm wondering, as you think about, in particular, coaching the cross country team at Redwood, what were your favorite parts of that so far?
Oh my gosh. It was just the sweetest season ever. It was it was a very different experience than coaching at Sayre at the middle and high school level, and being around people who had experienced running before and experienced organized sport before, and kind of had gotten their feet wet already. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was a very different experience, but it was just the sweetest thing ever. It was the first time that Redwood has ever had a sports team of any kind, so that was really special. And a lot of them, I hadn't participated in any sort of organized sport. I think a lot of them, when they joined, had no idea what they were getting themselves into. They swore to me that they did not sign up for running and that their parents made them do it, but they were just so sweet, and they worked so hard, and just, I don't know, just the smiles and how proud they were of themselves. Like, I knew that I was asking them to do a really hard thing, especially with younger kids,
Mm-hmm.
asking them to run, a mile or for 10 minutes. That's a really long time. It's very different than, especially at Redwood, we're lucky enough to spend a lot of time outside and playing, but when you're running and playing with your friends, it's not a continuous effort. It's not the same thing as lining up against, 100 people that you don't know and going to run a race. So just, I don't know, just seeing how proud they were of themselves, like knowing that this was a really hard thing that they were doing, and then watching them do it, watching them improve, and then seeing how proud they were of themselves was just the best part.
I hope everyone can hear it in your voice, but I can see in your face as we're talking the way your face is just lighting up thinking about this experience. So, hopefully everyone can hear that in your voice too. I'm wondering if you have a particular story or a moment of growth that really just stood out to you from that coaching experience.
Um, I think probably after the first race, it was a really hot day, and we had been, practicing, easing them into it. I tried to prepare them, talking with what it was going to feel like, what it was going to look like, what they should expect. But nothing ever prepares you. Nothing ever prepares you for a race. I had pre-race jitters every single race I ran. I probably felt the same way my very first cross country race as I did, lining up at nationals or, a conference meet, whatever it is. You're always going to be nervous, and you never know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
But having it be the first time ever, and it was a really hot day, and watching them go through it, and just afterwards, like, hearing them all say that was hard, and then coming back to our next practice and hearing all the positive things that they had to say, and how proud they were of themselves for doing that really, really hard thing, and succeeding.
Yeah.
Not giving up.
Did you notice any differences in how they interacted with one another over the course of the season? Friendships that were built, or and just how they interacted with one another?
Definitely. I think they became a really strong team, which was really fun to see, especially because it was a small number of them. Redwood's a fairly small school, so they were with their classmates. It's not like they didn't know each other. They had
Mm-hmm.
interacted in that way inside the classroom with the cooperative learning that we get to do at school. Um, but just kind of seeing them support each other and watching that grow as the season went on was really special. They always, so the way cross country works, like, there will be, a girls race and a boys race, whatever it may be. Whoever was first always stuck around and cheered on the second team. They cheered, they would run around the course with me and cheer for their teammates. They always made sure that they saw everybody else get through the finish line. They always were giving high fives. They were one of the the strongest bonded teams I think that I've probably ever seen, at least from a coaching experience. And, it was their first year doing it, which was really fun.
Yeah, well, that's exciting, and they're lucky to have a good role model in you to coach them through it. So thinking about girls and women in sports and activity, what kind of advice or messages do you have for girls and women who are trying to be active?
I think just that you can do it. That sounds so simple and so cliche, but I really took for granted, the strong female role models that I had when I was growing up, and looking back, just seeing what a huge role that they played in my life. I mean, my mom, I totally took her for granted in so many ways, but, looking back on it, she embodied everything that I didn't know I wanted to be at the time. And just kind of growing up with that constant, figure in my life, I was so lucky. And just, I think that females especially, there's a lot of pressure from different sources to be all kinds of different things. And just knowing that you're enough just the way you are, and that you can do whatever you want to do. It might not happen tomorrow, it might not happen next year, but whatever it is that you want to do, you can do it. Make a plan and stick with it. Don't let anybody else deter you. Don't worry about what they say or they think. You go after what you want.
Great messages. Is there anything else you'd like to share today?
I don't think so. I just, encourage everybody to try out whatever sport it is that you want to do, even if it's not running. Once you find something that keeps you active that you really like, I think that's a really special experience.
I agree wholeheartedly. Well, I appreciate your time today. I know you're juggling teaching online and finishing up the school year here, so I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Champions of Active Women podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Active Women's Health Initiative and was produced by the Faculty Media Depot at the University of Kentucky. If you enjoyed this episode, you can listen and subscribe to all of our episodes wherever you find your podcasts. For up-to-date information about the Active Women's Health Initiative, you can find us on social media at UKAWHI. Thank you for supporting us as we work to promote health and physical activity among girls and women across the lifespan.